So I had a guy tell me one time, and I was like, bro, what do you want? He was like, man, I want what you got. And I was like, what do you mean by that? I was like, you still got your mom? He was like, yeah. I was like, you want to lose your mom? My mom passed on this journey. I was like, you want to lose your brother? Like, my brother Red passed 5 years ago, 6 years ago, on this journey. And I still had to show up. I couldn't go off the grid to go grieve, and cats don't like check in on me. Hey bro, how you feeling? Hey bro, I know it's time to do you want to lose your people and still have a payroll to still cover? Payroll is real.
Yeah.
Like I done been at a point with like 6-figure payrolls or multiple monthly payrolls, right? And it's like somebody passes or I can't afford to grieve. I gotta I gotta get back to it. Because I got people who households are dependent on me.
That's good.
Hey, what's up, my friend? It's Marco Russell here, and welcome to the Strategic Scale Show, Confessions of a Recovering Workaholic. So on this show, we talk about how do you build a business that runs without you, without running you in the ground. And we talk about how do you win in all areas, not just in business and financially, but as a parent, as a father, as a wife, from a spiritual standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. We cover it all so you can actually create holistic success in your business and your life. Let's get into the show.
So I appreciate you, first off, for actually having me on the show, because I got some questions, bro. I always have questions from all the time that we spend on the road, flights and different things like that. Yeah. And one of the transitions that I wanted to kind of talk about is like basically you from the trap, because not a lot of people know you from the street. Yeah. You from the trap and then transitioning to the man that we see today. Like when you was winning in the streets, like how did you know that this wasn't the man that you wanted to be, even when you was winning?
So that's a really good question, bro. So it's like, all right, so I didn't really, it's kind of two phases of it, right? So it's like, all right, when you're in the streets and you win it and you're in the midst of it, it's like, it's kind of a balance of this is actually the man I always wanted to be, right? Because that literally at a point in my life, my biggest aspiration was to be a drug kingpin, which is crazy. Okay. When I look back. So I was like in it, winning, doing the things, the work, the streets, the clubs, all the things, right? Record label, like the whole nine. And the part that I didn't, one of the things I didn't like was like when I was sitting in jail one time and I was like, this kind of for the birds. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was like, this is crazy. Cause it's like you in there with other men, it's like you pretty much are not even treated like a human, and it's like, this ain't really worth it. And so I got introduced to network marketing. When I got introduced to network marketing, and I was like, I'm gonna do the street thing, but I'm gonna do this thing because I see the possibility of it. Right. But I gotta hold on to my for sure money with the streets.
Talk about what's the for sure money?
My for sure money is like, cause I'm feeding myself. Right. And I only had one son at the time. I had Quaid. So I'm feeding myself and him based on the money that I'm getting in the streets. Okay. So the music was cool, the club promotions were cool, but it was kind of like a thing we was doing. We weren't really getting no life-changing money in it, or like no bill-paying money for real. Probably put it towards the re-up or something like that, but it was like the money I was getting in the streets from selling drugs and all that. I was like, I didn't want to let that go for this because I wanted 100. I saw the possibility of it, but I was like, you kind of like holding on to this thing until this thing worked. But in reality, you got to oftentimes let go of this thing to grow. It's kind of like if you only had one hand and I was trying to give you $100 bill, and you can only use one hand, I was giving you $100 bill and you was holding a dollar bill. So it's like, how are you going to grab this $100? Right. You got to let the dollar go. Right. But I didn't want to let the dollar go. So I got pulled over one time and I had a warrant. Didn't even realize. I had Quay in the back seat. He was asleep. He was probably 4 or something like that. So we get pulled over. I literally remember it was by Six Flags. It was about to jump on the expressway. I got pulled over and they came to the car and they checked and everything. They came back with like, hey, you step out. You got a warrant. And I'm like, I don't remember having a warrant. Right. But he's in the back seat asleep. So I'm like, what am I do? Bro, by the grace of God, his grandma, like his mom's mom was passing. I called her and I was like, because I didn't want him to see me get locked up and them had to do. So I called her and was like, hey, could you come get Quay? Like, it's I got a warrant. I don't want him to kind of. So she was able to come get him out, the whole nine, while I kind of went and handled that. So they locked me up. I had a warrant for, I forget exactly what the warrant was for. So I get the warrant. I'm sitting in the holding cell And I'm sitting in the hotel, and it's like everything is going on in the hotel cell. Some of the guys, they're just excited to get upstairs.
Yeah.
Because they like, hey, my home is on the 5th floor. I want to get up there. I'm ready to get up there and change out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I've been
Now we
doing this.
trying to upgrade in the jail.
No, for real. It's like they just want to get to the floor
Yeah.
because all their homies on the floor. Everybody from the hood on the floor.
Right.
So I'm down there, and I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. I'm calling I done called my mom and all them. So I'm like, I'm trying to get my attorney down there to like make the move. And they like, I'm telling the people in like the CEOs or whatever. I'm like, hey, they coming to get me. They like, no, you got to go upstairs. They come get you. We'll call you back down. But the thing about getting locked up, once you get upstairs, it's a long time. It's like a long process to get you back downstairs. So I go through this whole thing, but I'm sitting in there and I'm like, bro, like this thing, I've been doing this same thing since I was like 15, 16. So at this time, I'm probably 24, 25, between 23 and 25. So I go through that, get up there, and I'm like, just for the birds. I was like, when I get through this, like I'm done. So I got out, finished up what I had going on the streets, and I was like, I'm gonna just go all in on this network marketing thing to make it work. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Cause like me being single, not having any children, it's like I always hear about people saying like they doing it for their kids. So it made me think about like if you didn't have kids, like and like living this life and for show money, like providing for Quay at the time, it's like would you have changed direction or did the jail cell do enough for you?
Yeah, I don't know, bro. So I tell people all the time. It's like I made a video about it the other day. So Julian asked me, he was like, man, how do you find the balance between your spiritual content and then your business content? And I was like, I don't see them as different. I see them as connected because business is very spiritual, right? And I was like, I don't see, when I'm talking about family or talking about marriage or talking about parenting, I don't see those as separate because I'm like, without my wife, the businessman that people see I don't think it would exist without my wife, right? Without my kids, obviously without her, I wouldn't have my kids. So like my wife and my kids bring me that balance and that focus and that foundation that I can anchor in. So without that, I'm not sure if I didn't have any reason, you know what I'm saying? Because like when I had Quay, bro, my mentality was I want to have a son just in case something happens to me.
That's wild.
So I wanted to have somebody else to continue my life. Because that's the life I was living. Like I didn't know, and I also, a lot of people don't know this, MJ, my 11-year-old, is a junior. You notice that, right?
Yep.
Quay's not a junior. And I had to explain to Quay why he's not a junior. Because the life that I was living at that time, I didn't want my name to be attached to him.
At that time, the way you was moving,
based on how I was moving.
So
even when I had Quay, I mean, even when I had MJ, I was like, I didn't want him to be a junior.
Okay.
But you know, your sister Vanessa, she was like,
Understood.
You're naming him what I want to name him. It's gonna be Marquell. So.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I know we're going deep right now. However, if you're watching this and you're a business owner, you want to take your business to the next level, you want to scale your business and have a business that can run without you, without running you in the ground, and you want to generate more leads, more clients, or you want to put the systems in place so your business can run like a well-oiled machine, make sure you check in the description section of this video. We got a ton of free resources for you. Go ahead and get those right now. Stop right now. Go ahead and get those resources, and let's get right back into the show.
Because even like, I'm thinking about it, and that's dope, even having that conversation with Julian. Like, you've expressed to me, even like transitioning from the streets, and I'm seeing you in the pulpit now.
Yeah.
And it's like, you ever saw yourself?
No, absolutely not, bro. That's probably like the last thing I ever wanted to be.
But like, you've been doing great things. Like, we've been on different stages. You've spoken in front of thousands of people. And one of the things that you told me I thought was super interesting was like, you've spoken in front of so many different people, but it feels different doing it in front of the pulpit when it's only like 50 or 60 or 100 people. Like, why is that so different?
So I think it's because, to me, at least my story around it is like when teaching the word of God, man, it's like, so the business stuff is important as well, because when I'm working with business owners and teaching business owners, what I'm saying is it affects their livelihood and their families and everything, right? So I got to be very particular. With the Bible stuff and the kingdom, I feel like it's even more delicate because now we're talking about souls and then there's so much, because you're dealing with so much church hurt, right? You're dealing with so many different ideologies. Now the business stuff is also spiritual, so you're dealing with stuff in the spiritual realm as well. But I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like when it comes to the ministry. Well, like, I won't say the ministry because business is ministry as well, but when it comes to like the things of God in the church, it's just like it's so much more up against it, and it causes a deeper level of study and preparation as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That do. But even in the sense of you saying that you felt like in the conversation with Julian, there's no difference in the way that you're doing it that way.
Yeah.
You don't feel the same way this
It's
way?
it's a great point. Bro.
Talk to me.
It's a great point. It's a great point. So that's a really good point. So now the balance I have to bring when I'm in the pulpit is like I have to, because I can do business analogies and business examples all day long. But when I'm in church, I can't do that because I won't say the majority, but everybody in the room isn't a business owner. So now I got to dance around and make it connect between the kids, the adults. Then you got the people who've been in church. I won't call them super saints, but the people who've been in the church way longer.
Right.
And so now you got to connect with them. So it's a lot happening, and it's similar to business. So it's a lot of correlation. But I don't know, bro. It might just be the story in my head that is drastically different.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Because like even when you use the word dancing, it's just like, from me knowing you, it's just like you normally just keep it real.
Yeah.
So it's just like, elaborate a little bit on the dancing aspect, because I don't think that, and I don't want nobody to misinterpret it, that you trying to hit the masses, but it's just like you want to make sure it resonates with certain people. So when you talk about dancing.
So, bro, so all right, so look, so check this out. So a big conversation we've been talking about is identity. And Rachel and I was talking about this yesterday as well. And I did a post about this morning as well. And I talked about when I was in the streets, my identity, and I said this in the pulpit the other day, and everybody was like, did he say that? So I was talking about how my identity in the streets was a street nigga. And it's like, that was identity, and that's who we want to be. Like, that was a badge of honor. Like, you see people argue. You've seen rappers beef because they be like, oh, man, he ain't really no real street nigga. And they be like, oh, yes, I am. They're like, I'll show you. And then the shootout, breakout, and it's like just over being a street nigga. Right? Or this my hood. And it's like, well, this ain't really your hood. Y'all don't own no property over here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got those identities. So then I had the identity of, I'm a business guy, so I think my biggest, it's so good, glad you asked me this, I think my biggest tussle was that of my identity of, I'm a business guy. Does that make sense? So if I'm a business guy, how do I now shift into this where my identity is this? And now it's like, okay, now what is my identity? And then it brings us to our identity. The reality is, our identity isn't what we do. It's like, you got to go back to like, what's your true identity? So my true identity is a child of God, created in God's image, on purpose, based on God's purpose to expand the kingdom into the earthly realm. And I'm his child. I'm a kingdom citizen. And that just shows up in the marketplace. Right.
And everything you do.
And that shows up in the ministry. That shows up in family. So yes, part of my role is being a father, but that's not necessarily my core identity. So like, cause now it's like, if I tie my core identity up in being a father when my kids are grown and they go off and do their own lives, yes, I'm still a father, but it's like the dynamic changes. So I can't root my identity in that. Cause I work with clients and it's like, now they're empty nesters now. And now they're trying to relearn themselves because their whole identity was like as a mom or as a dad. But now their kids are no longer in the house. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And we've been told that once our kids are 18 or 20, whenever, and they get out of the house, they're on their own. But what I learned is that the relationship just changes. You move from more of a parent in the traditional sense to more of a mentor and advisor at when they get into those different ages. Does that make sense?
That's
so it's
good.
more of a, so I guess it was more of a, I'm glad you asked me this to really help me think this out. So I think it's really more of a identity shift or identity realization and then realizing like how much my identity was actually tied to what I do, not who I really am. And we see it all the time. We see it on podcasts and stuff like that. And it's like, well, tell everybody who you are. And then and people automatically go into all the stuff they do. It's like, well, that's not who you are. That's what you do. Yeah, you're a business coach. Yeah, you're this. Yeah, those are just things you do, though. That's not who you are.
That's good.
Tell us who you are.
So who I am, my core identity, I'm a child of God. Boom. and then all this other stuff is just like stuff that comes with it.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's number one.
What do you do as a father to help your kids not have to go through that confusion, that identity confusion?
That's a really good question. So one of the things that I do is, so one of the things we do, like we talked about yesterday, like one part of our affirmations is, and they're so comfortable saying it now, is that one of them is, I'm a God, right? Because God says we are gods, we are little gods, right? So them owning that. They are kings because they are descended from the king.
Right.
So they know that they're a king. So it's like, now when something happens or they do something, I'm like, you're a king, right? Like, would a king do that? And they're like, well, no. So I'm like, so now it's a realignment. Does that make sense?
It is.
So now it's like, okay, bro. So I get you there, and I know we talked about this as well. It's like, you lied. That doesn't mean you're a liar.
Right.
You just lied. Still a king, though.
There we go.
Does that make sense? You're better, and I had to learn to communicate it this way. You're better than you were in that particular situation. You just got out of alignment, and players mess up too.
That's real. That's real. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Because even like I think about the father that you are, the husband that you are, and a lot of, even with Pastor D, y'all are a good group of men, and like I'm grateful to have y'all in my circle.
Yeah.
So even when I'm thinking about it, it's just like the role or the real models that y'all are is like super dope. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you, and even in fatherhood, one thing that I'm learning from my perspective of my mom is like there's that parental piece, and then it wasn't until like my 20s, no, probably my 30s, like I started to actually see my mom as a friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very different. And not to say that it's difficult, but it's just like even transitioning to when you become an empty nester and this, that, and the third, like how are you developing a friendly relationship with your kids to know that they can come to you and express certain things, but they still see you as the person that's speaking on these stages? Is like, because I think a lot of the clients have that thought process of you is like, I can't come to him about this because he's so high level. I can't do this or reach out to him because he's so high level. And it's like, how do you make that transition, not just in business, but even in the household?
In the household.
Yeah.
So I think one of the cool things is that, and I know you told me that before. One time you was like, man, clients and so forth, they see you as this, so they feel like they can come to you with certain things.
Right.
And I'm like, it's interesting how people view you, right? So with my kids, it's like one of the things I communicate with them, and I've communicated them with over, is like, me and your mom are growing up also. So it's not like we are the perfect picture of this. Right. Like I've had to go back and still do go back in the pot. Like sometimes I slip. Like literally the other day, I was irritated. I don't know what I was irritated about. I don't know if I was tired or hungry. Like I don't know. But I was just like, some days you just, right?
Feeling it.
So I was a little snappy one day. And the next day, MJ came into my office. And the beautiful thing about kids, man, especially when they're younger, is like they're just so forgiving. You know what I'm saying? So the next day, MJ came upstairs, and I was like, hey, I was like, I want to apologize. I was like, I don't know what was going on yesterday. Like, some days I just miss it, right? And I was like, I just want to apologize. And he was like, no, it's all good. I understand. And he was like, I kind of saw that this weren't kind of like you. But I was like, yeah, I apologize. Like some days, you just miss it. So just letting them know, like, hey, I ain't perfect. I ain't trying to be perfect. I ain't trying to project this picture of perfection.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
It's I'm just like you growing up, and you dealing with your stuff. I'm growing up as well, and I'm just sharing what I'm learning.
Yeah.
And then if I ever have to double back and be like, hey, remember when I shared this or taught this? Like that's actually evolved based on our learning.
That's good. That's good. You had something? Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. I think one of the other pieces that like come to that is just like being vulnerable and admitting that you messed up.
Yeah.
And it's like living in the picture perfect, whether it's a mogul on social media, whether it's a man in the household. It's just like in your me time, because I've seen you as not even a perfectionist, but I've seen like where your discipline meets the actual preparation of a moment.
Yeah.
And for that rubbing off on me, I've seen it actually come up in conversations in my relationships with women.
Really?
For sure. It's
Okay.
just like, you just so strategic and strict by the book and everything like that. And I guess my thought process is like, where is the balance or the alignment when it comes from being strategic to like submission?
So that's a really good question. So like and it's strategic and submission, right? So it is, and you know, rock on me. My word for the last 2 years has been surrender, right? So I've had to shift more from this person who's want to be in control all the time and control the outcomes to being of one of surrender, right? And it's like, all right, yeah, I got a vision, right, that I believe this is how it's supposed to look, but I'm okay, and these are my goals, but all right, God, these goals are surrendered to you though.
Right.
So is this goal or something better? So let's say it's a revenue target or something better. That something better might be more revenue than that, or it may be less revenue than that, but still growth in some other areas. So I ain't tied to comparatively how it used to be. It was like, okay, this was goal for this month. We ain't hit that goal. All right, we need to go even harder this month because we got to make up for falling short on that goal last month.
That's good. So where and do want you to finish that piece, but in the midst of that, you're saying you were tied to the goals that you were trying to achieve?
100%.
How so?
I just need to hit them. I'm thinking about them all the time. Like, how do I hit them? How do I hit them? I just want to be in control. And I think when I was trying to be in control and trying to control the thing, because like, no matter how brilliant we are, we're still limited in our understanding, right? So the scripture says, don't lean just on your own understanding. So if I'm so zoomed in on, like, have you ever been like trying to work on something and solve something, and it still ain't working out, and then you go take a shower, or do you go for a walk, or you go watch TV or something, and then you get the download?
For sure.
Where it's like, oh, it was that simple, right? So it's like sometimes we'll be so locked in on it. So a goal, we can be so locked in on it. So all right, I explain it this way. So in the book, U Squared, Price Pritchard, it opens in the very beginning of it. He talks about, he literally shares a story. He's like, I'm sitting in my living room and I can hear a fly like trying to get out of the window. You ever saw like a fly trying to get out of the window? Yeah. And he was like, I can just hear the fly like for dear life hitting the glass. Boo, boo, zzz, zzz, zzz. And he was like, if only the fly would fly back just a little bit, he would notice that it's a door open right there. And he can just fly out of it. And he was like, how often are we so locked in on what we're trying to do, and we're like the fly hitting across the glass, and all we had to do was zoom out for a different perspective, and we realize that it's a door open right there. Hey, real quick, I want to pause real quick just to let you know, if you got questions that you want me to answer live, all you got to do is simply go to askmarquel.com, askmarquel.com, submit your questions, and I'm going to answer them live on the upcoming episode. No question. There's nothing held back. There's nothing off topic, or there's nothing off limits. You can ask whatever you want. Just go to askmarquel.com. It can be around business, it can be around spiritual life, it can be around parenting, whatever. And I'm not acting like I'm an expert in any of these topics. I'm only going to share with you based on my personal experience. So go to askmarquel.com. Let's jump back to the show.
I think that's good.
That's that surrender.
That's so good. I don't want to negate that fact. I don't. I've seen you over the last few years where you've been locked in on a goal and you hit the goal. You've been locked in on it, and it's like, if not in your strength or in your power, and it's in God's will, I've seen you in that disciplinary role, in that strategic mindset before you even transition to the pulpit. So it's like, I've seen you do it almost in your will, in your power. And it's just like you having
seemingly,
okay, there we go.
Seemingly in my power.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the sense of doing that, because it's like the surrender that you're talking about now, it's like, was that there then? And if it was, it's just like, what was that transition? Because you had success doing like, this is what we're gonna do. Hey, we've hit it. Hey, we've had the success, and like, how's that changed you as the person that you are now, like reflecting and looking back?
So I would say I think it's two types of success, right? So it was all the trophies of success,
For sure.
right? So the trophies of success is like the money, the cars, the homes, the homes, the things, right? And everything on the vision board accomplished. But then it's like, there's no true like peace and rest though, because I'm still operating from this place of anxiousness.
I feel you.
It's like this insatiable desire for more. So it's like, we hit that, but Or now you start finding yourself comparing, especially in the internet don't help you with that. So now you start seeing what other people are doing. Oh, well, now the target might be 100,000 a month. Then you hit 100,000. First time I hit 100,000 a month, my mentor, who I was working with at the time, he was like, "How did last month go?" He knew I was locked in on 100,000 a month, and he was like, "How did last month go?" And I was like, "That's a good question." We're in a whole new month. I was like, "That's a good question." I went and looked, it was at 103,000. Right? We had crossed the goal. I saw the goal. I told him it was 103,000, and he was like, "How you feel?" You know what I told him?
What?
I was like, "It feels good." I was like, "But I know it's more. Let's hit more. Let's get more." Like that was my default. I didn't even sit in the fact that I had made more in a month than most people making a year. Most people, I think I read a stat, that said only 6%, I think at least Black Americans, I think, or maybe just in general, make $100,000 a year. I had made that in a month, but I was like, that was cool, but let's get more.
Yeah.
So that's that anxiousness. That's that unrest. So it's like, all right, you hit this, and now it's like, all right, what about this? Or you hit this, and now it's about this. Or you get the house, and now you're like, oh, well, it's cool, but it could be bigger. Like, don't let alone you buy a house, and then you ride around, you be like, oh, that thing bigger. Just subconsciously.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So that's good. I'm glad you put it that way. I think my thought process is like, from the outside looking in, a lot of people don't know the man that you are and the things that you grow through, not just go through. So it's just like, what do you think, probably from the outside looking in, if you looked and scrolled through your page and just kind of see what it is that you're putting out there, like what you think is like the biggest misconception about your transformation?
I think the biggest misconception is, and the thing that people don't understand is like how much it costs. Does that make sense?
That's good. That's loaded.
Like people don't realize like to have the life that I have now, it costs me everything. It cost me my old life. It cost relationships. It cost people. So I had a guy tell me one time, I was like, so what do you want? This is when I was doing sales calls or whatever. And I was like, bro, what do you want? He was like, man, I want what you got. And I was like, what do you mean by that? I was like, you still got your mom? He was like, yeah. I was like, you want to lose your mom? Like my mom passed on this journey. Probably like, I think almost 12 years ago. I was like, you want to lose your brother? Like my brother Red passed 6 years ago, on this journey. And I still had to show up. Does that make sense? I couldn't go off the grid to go grieve, and when nobody checking in, cats don't like checking in on me. Hey bro, how you feeling? Hey bro, I know it's time to like, do you want to lose your people and still have a payroll to still cover? Does that make sense? Because these people, like, payroll is real.
Yeah.
Like, I done been at a point with, like, 6-figure payrolls or multiple monthly payrolls, right? And it's like, somebody passes or I can't afford to, at least in my mind, I was like, I can't afford to grieve. I got to like, yeah, okay, but I got to get back to it. Because I got people who households are dependent on me.
That's good.
But then I had to realize more recently is that, Marquel, you took that burden on. It's like, that's God's burden. Like, if you believe this vision is what God gave you, that's God's bill. But I took it on, like, I got to
figure it out. I got to make it happen. Yep.
So even when we went through this pruning season, we talked about a lot in the business, we went through a pruning season because we went through like growth after growth after growth after growth. And I was addicted to growth. I like growth. Entrepreneurs hate regression because it feels like you're dying. Entrepreneurs love momentum. I love momentum, right? But momentum, I see it differently now. However, when I went through that pruning season, it was like, dang, we still got multiple 6-figure payroll. We still got X amount of people on the team. We still got monthly payroll.
Facts.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So it's like, now it's like, all right, these people got kids and real mouths to feed. I got to figure out how to, and I had to realize that's where that surrender came in place, where it's like, nah, bro, you took that on. My word says, cast all your cares on me. Give me the burden. Let me figure it out. And that's when that release and that peace.
Yeah. Boy, that's good. That's good. And these conversations are definitely needed because I think a lot of people only see the marketing man. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you bringing me into this space because I want to like peel back the lid that is the mind of Marquel and the journeys that we've been on and the journey that you're continuing on. So this is just one of many conversations that I'm looking forward to having. So appreciate you, my dog.
Get it.
Yeah.
For sure. Hey, congratulations on making it to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this episode, you definitely want to check out the next episode that we got, probably popping up on the screen right here somewhere. And also make sure you subscribe to this show, and also check in the description section. We got a ton of resources for you to actually implement a lot of the strategies and insights when we talk about building a business that can actually run without you. Go ahead and do that right now, and we'll see you in the next episode.